Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we are going to discuss the Steam Deck once again, but we are going to discuss some valid criticisms of the device and things that I think Valve could improve on. Now initially I didn't really think this was a video worth making, but I thought more about it after one of my good friends, Gravity, by the way, link to his channel below. He makes fantastic live streams. You should absolutely go sub to him. Brought up that he would love to hear a video discussing things that I find wrong with the Steam Deck, or things that I think could be improved on, things that I think would make the device better, basically its shortcomings. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So initially when I was coming up with things that I find as negatives against the Steam Deck, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little difficult because since the first launch of the Steam Deck as to now when I have it, it's been half a year, I really feel like a lot of issues I had in the beginning of owning a Steam Deck have changed a lot since now owning it for 6 months. Specifically what I mean by that is a lot of the feedback that Valve got when the device launched has really been addressed by Valve. And thankfully, what's nice about it, a lot of the issues and a lot of the things surrounding the Steam Deck that was negative were able to be fixed with patches, which was great because that means that everything that was wrong with the Steam Deck could essentially just be patched in, which is really, really nice and future-proof for anybody who wanted to have the device for a long time. Now, obviously, I won't make this just about the software side, but honestly, the only gripes that I really have with the Steam Deck, and if I'm taking a really objective, critical look at it, most of my gripes would come specifically on the software side, and it's things that I really feel like Valve would still be able to fix with just an update. So just keep that in mind as I'm going through the critical negatives. So the first and number one problem I have with the Steam Deck, still to this day, and this is something that has not been addressed that I've been able to see, I haven't seen anybody really talk about it, and it always kind of weirds me out that it's like the one thing that's not discussed about the Steam Deck, but that is the fact that you cannot turn the device off and have it download software in the background. Now the reason for me that that is such a negative is because when you're wanting to download a game and you want to be able to preserve your battery life, or even if you just want to be able to turn the device off, it really becomes a hassle because it's one of those things where you can't just set the device down, power it off, and by powered off I just mean set it to sleep like a Nintendo Switch or an iPad or something like that, and then just have the game download in the background like pretty much every other device. That's really one of the only things where I don't understand why Valve won't let you have that option. I know that it's probably a little power consuming, but I'm willing to take that risk just to have my Steam Deck off. It's really annoying because when I want to download a game, I basically have two options. I either plug it into my dock and I turn it on with the TV off, which kind of works because it turns the display off, but I shouldn't have to go around it just to download a game, or I have to plug it into the charger and basically just leave the system on with the screen on while I download a game. So that is a little frustrating. I really wish that they would fix that. More than anything, I just don't really like leaving my screen on for hours at a time to download something, so I really would like it if they could maybe fix that. In somewhat related fashion, another issue that I have is that when a game is downloading, I can play other games, but the performance of the other games typically tends to take a hit. And by that, I mean it really depends on what type of game I'm playing. So for example, if I'm playing Vampire Survivors, that game is not really going to struggle at all. I could be downloading pretty much any type of game that I want, and Vampire Survivors will run just fine while the game is downloading in the background. But if I was to play a game like Marvel Spider-Man, it really chugs a lot with the frame rate because the power consumption is just not acceptable to download a game and then also run a game like that at the same time. So it is a little confusing at first because it's not really something that's explained or something that is told to somebody when they're going to play and download a game at the same time. And I really wish that Valve would maybe add at least a little bit of a warning, or at least make it aware to people that that is something that happens, is that your games will take a hit if you are trying to download a game and play a higher caliber game at the same time. Now I will say, when the device is plugged into a power outlet or an external power source, it does seem to have less of an issue doing that. I did notice that games tended to perform a little bit better when plugged into a power source, so I'm not sure if it's just because it has a consistent power source to pull from that it doesn't create as much of an issue, but when you are playing in handheld mode, it definitely does rear its head. So with those two things in mind, those are like my primary gripes with the Steam Deck. I do think those are both something that can be fixed in a patch. I don't necessarily know about the power consumption part, but downloading a game with being able to turn the device off or put it in sleep mode, I think is definitely something that they could fix. Every other complaint that I will have in this video is more nitpicky, but I just wanted to kind of put my two biggest frustrations out there. I think those two are very legitimate concerns. These could be more nitpicky, these next few, and could be more seen as maybe personal taste, but I do think objectively the first two are valid criticisms. And do bear in mind, I know you're probably halfway through this video thinking, oh man, is the Steam Deck like a piece of crap? No, I absolutely love the Steam Deck. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I think this device is fantastic, and I really have so much praise for it. This is mainly just me wanting to go through things that you might not know about the Steam Deck that could be a concern for you. So another gripe of mine with the Steam Deck, and this is probably more on a case-by-case basis, but it does tend to struggle a little bit when it comes to anti-cheat in multiplayer games. Now, more specifically, I'm talking about games like Call of Duty and Destiny, but it could be applied to possibly other games. I haven't actually tried out Halo Infinite or some of the other Halo multiplayers. I've heard those work okay, but I haven't actually tested them myself, so take that with a grain of salt. But I've noticed that the anti-cheat system on games like Call of Duty and Destiny really have a hard time making it run on the system. So for example, Destiny 2 will flat out just not run on the Steam Deck, at least not in the normal mode. If you wanted to play Destiny 2, you'd have to technically download Windows, because currently Destiny 2 is not supported on Linux, or at least not on whatever form of Linux the Steam Deck is running. Now, for obvious reasons, that's frustrating for anybody that wants to be able to play their favorite games like Destiny or Call of Duty, and it kind of creates a little bit of a divide for people that wanted to play it portably. I can certainly see there being an issue possibly with it being able to hold up, but honestly, the system has been running every game I've thrown at it just fine, and I don't really see any reason why it couldn't run those games. I do genuinely think it has to do with the anti-cheat systems that those games use. I know that they were both under the Activision umbrella for so long, Destiny not so much recently, but for the longest time with it being under the same system, I don't know if they were using the same anti-cheat. I know Call of Duty uses Ricochet. I'm not entirely sure what Destiny uses, but whatever reasons that those games have, they do have an issue running on the Steam Deck. Now, I have seen people play Call of Duty on the Steam Deck, but I'm not sure if they're using Windows or if they're using just the stock OS the Steam Deck comes with. That's something I'm not entirely sure on, but I would love to know if you guys have an answer to that. I would love to know in the comments below. Please feel free to share. So bottom line with this nitpick, basically keep in mind that some multiplayer games may vary on whether or not they'll work super well on the Steam Deck. I think games that are more PvE focused should be just fine. I haven't really encountered any problems from anybody or myself with any PvE type games, minus Destiny, but once again, your mileage may vary. One gripe that I used to have that was pretty strong about the Steam Deck, I really want to just clear up really quick. I used to have an issue with getting it docked on the TV, and it used to be a really big hassle to actually get it to boot and run games from the actual normal OS that it boots with. Thankfully, that is something that has actually been fixed, and a lot of little things that were going wrong with that specific use of the Steam Deck has actually been addressed and fixed by Valve. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as something that used to be a very strong nitpick of mine, but since I bought the Steam Deck dock, it's been perfect and works just fine. The very last issue that I do kind of have with the Steam Deck, and once again, this is kind of a case-by-case basis, but it is the battery life. Now, the battery life is not bad on the Steam Deck, so I don't really want to go into this criticism specifically stating that it is an outright negative, but I have noticed that it does kind of become a buzzkill when you're trying to play a game that has higher graphical settings, and you go from getting about 4 or 5 hours out of a game to about 2 hours. It's a little bit of a, just a buzzkill to not be able to play a game for as long as you'd like to. I still think it handles most games pretty well. In fact, I would say most games, it really doesn't struggle on having a really bad battery life. I think my average is probably 3 to 5 hours for most games I play. But once again, if you're trying to play a game like Marvel Spider-Man or God of War or Elden Ring, typically you're going to get about 2 hours if you want to play on max settings. So it is a little unfortunate that you don't get quite as much battery life, but once again, it is a case-by-case basis. So if you're playing games that are primarily 360 PS3 era, you're going to be just fine at getting about a steady 4 hours or so. But if you are going to play a game that was on the Xbox One PS4 generation, it is more standard that you'll get about 2 to 3 hours. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're playing games on it. It definitely does fluctuate in battery. I definitely don't think it's anything that you can't control, because one of the nice things about the Steam Deck is the fact that you're able to actually, flip the different power switches that you want to get the most battery out of the games you want. So if you want to limit the frame rate and then be able to set, some different shader control options, you can really get more battery life out of it. It just really depends on what you want. As I was making this video, I did think of just one more small nitpick I have, and that is when it comes to games that have launchers, and I mean games specifically that don't just launch from Steam when you open them, but games that actually have their own launcher. It does kind of become a little annoying that I do have to kind of go through that launcher to start a game, and that I'm not able to just pull it from Steam and it just automatically start. But I do understand kind of the mindset behind it. It's not a big deal. It is just kind of a small annoyance, but I did figure I should at least bring it up. So all in all, those are pretty much my only gripes and flaws with the Steam Deck. It's not really an extensive list, and I did really have to kind of think about a lot of these because, to be fair, the Steam Deck is just really good, and it has become so much more polished over the last year that it makes it very hard to come up with genuine criticism. So overall, I think that it handles things very well, and I think that the things they could fix really easily, and I don't think it's anything that's going to be too crazy. So I hope they fix the few things that I have an issue with. If you found this video helpful, or if you liked the video, please consider leaving a like. If you didn't, no harm, no foul. Feel free to dislike. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the video. I genuinely appreciate it. As always, have a great day and take care of yourselves.